is Jess from the SBOA, back again for another Unlocking Success in Self-Storage, engaging with the experts. And my special guest today is Miss Alyssa Quill from Storage Asset Management. Hey, Alyssa, how are you doing today?
Hey, good, Jess. Thanks. So good to see you, even if it's not in person.
Yeah, likewise. And I'm actually recording live today from the Texas Self-Storage Association show. So super fun. So I found this little quiet nook. I'm sorry if I'm echoing. If I echo, just let me know and we'll try to start fresh here. But I wanted to get with you today because I kind of told you why we were doing this series. You know, we're trying to help newer owners and operators, investors in the space, talk with some of the people that we consider industry experts. And you are one of them. In our eyes and in many people's eyes. So thanks again for joining me. To kick this off, Alyssa, just kind of give me some background. I always like to ask this question, and I hear this a lot from people. They always say, I didn't actively go looking for self-storage. It kind of found me. Is that the case for you? Like, how did you get started in this industry?
Yeah, just like everybody else, it wasn't, I didn't grow up thinking I wanted to be in storage. But like most other people, once I found it, I fell in love with it, and I'll never leave storage. I can't imagine having any other career not in self-storage. So I was working in Connecticut as an actuary. I worked for the insurance industry and did pricing for the insurance industry. And my husband got transferred to Memphis, Tennessee. And so I just started looking for jobs in Memphis, and I didn't move with him until I found a job. And I went out to interview for a job through a recruiter. And while I was interviewing for that job, she said, yeah, you're qualified for that, but I have this other company I'm working with and this other job that you might like better. And then she said, it's with a self-storage company. Do you want to interview with them tomorrow? And I was like, what company? I had never heard of it. So I went and interviewed with them the next day, and that company was Storage USA, and they were big. They were publicly traded, and ended up getting the job with them and moved out to Memphis to be with my now husband and work for the first storage company I worked for. So that was over 20 years ago.
That is awesome. So let's fast forward where you're at now. 20 years ago, you started there. Now you're the owner and CEO of Storage Asset Management.
Yep. We manage about between 300 and 400 storage facilities. And I give the range because we count them two different ways. Ones that are manned, that our team is working in the office, and then unmanned locations as well. So we have just under 400 total locations across the country. So we started this company about 11 years ago. So we've gone from about 20 properties then to about 400 locations now. So it's been, I don't know that I'd call myself an expert because I'm still learning things every single day and every single week, but we've learned a ton and grown a ton and been able to have some fun along the way. So
now, give me some idea, what made you go, okay, I want to start this, walk me through some of that so I can get that background.
I didn't do that. I didn't think I want to start a company. So I had worked for the big publicly traded company for 8 years or so. And then for personal reasons, just had babies and couldn't travel as much. So I was working for a more local regional owner operator, and he was trying to start a management company. And I did that for 1 year. And then he decided he didn't want to he didn't want to have a management company. And so he wanted to sell the 20 management contracts that he had. And he called the person I had replaced at that company and asked him if he was interested in buying those contracts. And then that person called me and said, I'm interested, but I don't want to do it by myself. Would you partner with me? So the opportunity landed in my lap. I had never even considered it, honestly, before. So I was in the right place at the right time. And then he and I partnered, started it. He retired a year ago. So he was a great partner, and we kind of built it together until a year ago when he retired.
That's such a cool story. I mean, talk about being in the right place at the right time. That's some good luck you have there.
Yeah, I wish I could say I was visionary and I always knew I could do it, but it didn't happen that way.
I know. I always get stuck in the implementer role, never the visionary role. I'm always the one behind the scenes doing all of it.
I
So
guess as long as we're surrounded by people who are more visionary, we can get there, right?
yeah, I'm just like, you come up with the idea, I'll go execute it. So it
Exactly.
balances each other. It's always a good thing. So, okay, early on in your career, you're in self-storage. What are some like of the least anticipated things that may have happened early on that you didn't see coming that were kind of unique?
Um, I, I'd say there were probably 3 or 4 things that surprised me. One, I thought self-storage seemed really kind of sleepy and boring and easy, right? And then you get into it and you realize there's a lot more to it than you think if you want to do well,
Sure.
and stand apart from others. So I guess, how intricate and complicated we can make something that on the surface looks pretty simple, was surprising. The willingness to share information coming from the insurance industry, like you worked with the people at your company and your insurance company, and you didn't really talk to people at other companies very much. And so it was really fascinating to get into storage and realize that people are willing to share ideas and information across the country, that you really only care about your competitors within a couple miles of your facility. Everybody else, if everybody does better, everybody does better. So
For sure.
that's my favorite thing about our industry.
Likewise, I agree with that comment. Big
Yeah.
time.
And
Yeah.
then the other thing, that coming from big publicly traded national companies to that year and a half, it ended up being at a much smaller company,
Sure.
that I learned, and what, quite honestly, I was just ignorant probably before that, was how much cash it takes to buy a property or develop a property, and if you're developing it, get to cash flow positive. So when working for such a large company, like it seemed like there was endless amounts of cash there, even somewhere.
Yeah.
And so if this property opens and the lease up was slower than expected, no big deal. There's money to pay it, and then you start working for, a much more, maybe an individual who this is their first storage property they ever built, and when that property's not leasing up fast, they're taking money out of their back pocket or borrowing it on their house, or doing something else to pay those bills every month. And
Sure.
it can be very, very, very profitable, but you have to do it right and really have to know what you're getting into, before you start. So that was eye-opening for me.
Yeah, I'm sure. So let's talk about that a little bit. Like I said early on, we decided to create this series because the industry as a whole is having a lot of eyeballs put on it because it has been so successful. It's a really good asset class within commercial real estate. There's people out there saying it's recession proof. I don't know if I'd use the word proof, but maybe resilient is a better word.
Certainly.
So lots of eyes on it. Lots of new people, new blood coming in that I would say are completely like green, right? They don't even know where to start. So give
Yep.
me, like, from your viewpoint, what those maybe like top 3 simple tips to kind of get started would be from your lens.
So, if you're thinking about developing a property, I would say number one is you absolutely need a feasibility study done by somebody who knows storage, knows the area, who can look and say, is there enough demand? And is this market not already oversaturated with supply? Because some are and some aren't. And before you spend too much time getting into engineering and planning and all of those things, let's just make sure it's going to make sense. And then as part of that feasibility study, have a really good cash flow forecast.
Sure.
So you understand your eventual return, you understand what you're going to need to get there, and make sure you have enough equity to do that.
Oh yeah.
Partners, right?
Yeah.
If you're acquiring a property, I think it'd be a good idea still, it's not technically like a feasibility study, but maybe hire a consultant. There are some really good consultants in our industry that could at least help you do your due diligence, analyze the pro forma. Don't just take the broker's pro forma and assume that's exactly right.
Sure.
There might be things that are missing from it. And you might want a couple of versions, like, all right, if I can do what the broker says, here's what I think it's worth. But if something else happens, if a new competitor builds, will I be okay? Because you don't want to, it's going to be a big debt payment, a big amount that you're borrowing, that you want to make sure you can pay back.
Sure.
And then once you built it, or you bought it, I'd say most important thing to do is invest in a really good manager. The person, if you're going to have a person behind the desk, that person's going to make or break your property.
For sure.
And then probably I would say don't overreact to a slow week, a slow day, a slow month. It's certainly cyclical, the demand in self-storage. And I think I see some people, man, I thought we'd have 5 move-ins this week. We only had 3. I'm going to drop my rates 20%. Well, it probably wasn't a rate issue.
Sure.
Just don't overreact.
Yeah. I love when manager has been a pretty consistent theme when we ask that question to others that we've done this series with. And I couldn't agree more. Like, they're the front line of defense. If you don't have the, aces in their places, so to say, that's a restaurant industry term that I used to use when I was in the industry. It really can make or break you from that aspect, for sure.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, and it's the right manager for that property.
Sure.
Right. So you might have some properties that you are trying to lease up and you just need someone who could talk to anybody. That's it. Like, the rest of this stuff I can figure out and teach you and train. I just need someone who can create a relationship with anybody that they talk to. Or you might have a huge, fully leased up property in maybe a tougher demographic or a pretty urban area where you have a lot of foot traffic, and they need to be able to handle customer service issues really well, or collection issues really well, or so I would say there's not a template for the absolute perfect self-storage manager. It's the perfect one for that property.
Yeah, and that makes sense too. And again, it goes back to like aces in their places, right? And and for that, what you were just saying a moment ago, I don't think, that's a personality thing. That's an inherent trait that most people have or don't have. So have to be really good in the qualification and selection process when you're looking at, certain candidates. You'll know instantly if they have those attributes or not. And if they don't, I wouldn't say disqualify them, but that's a little bit more of a, that's harder to train than teaching somebody how to like run your rent roll or something like that.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
And if you miss it in the interview process, you think they had it, and then in real life, it's not quite right.
Yeah.
I'd say don't wait too long to have that discussion and make a change if it's not right. Because if it's not right for you, it's probably not right for them either. And it's digging a big hole for you in your business if you wait too long. And not doing any favors for the other person either, because they're probably not happy either.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So Sam's been around, you said, for 11 years. Yep. And you are just like a little shy of, like you said, 400 properties. So talk me through, that's pretty big and rapid growth in a, condensed time, I would say. Tell me how you guys kind of like map that out throughout the years, and then what the future kind of looks like for your growth and expansion from a company perspective.
Honestly, Jess, we did not map it out
Really?
We never expected. We thought maybe we'd get to 100 properties.
That's awesome.
But what happened is we were always and will always be much more worried about doing a good job. And getting good results and having a good reputation in the industry, and having a team that overall is happy and engaged. And so we really don't usually have booths at trade shows or things like that. And it's because we've also, just doing a good job, we've been able to grow just through word of mouth. So our clients are happy with the way we're managing their stores, so they keep buying more properties. Awesome. And then, they've told so-and-so that they were happy with us. So then they call us. And so it's mostly been through word of mouth. And
that's great.
Honestly, we've tried to find people, or, as we're talking to people about potential management, we just want people that we're going to work really well together for. We are not the best solution for everybody. Every client's not the best mix with us. So we look at it more as a partnership, and we're going to work together to try to increase the value of your stores. And if we don't think we're going to work together, great. Let's not waste our time. And then it's been, as our clients are buying and building and doing that fast, sometimes we've actually had to temper our growth and say, okay, we can't take any new clients on for the next 6 months, because we have a pipeline just within our existing clients, and we don't want to burn out our team. We don't want to not pay enough attention to our existing stores because we're taking on too many new stores. So it's been awesome and fun, and we've been very fortunate to have the growth that we've had. But we kind of err on the other side, that we'd actually rather not grow quite as fast if possible.
So you get the whole like grow to scale concept then, for sure.
Yeah, we're just trying to do it at a pace that we can do it well.
Yeah, right? Listen, because I mean, there's people out there that are hungry and they want that rapid growth, and then they get it, and then they start to underperform, and then that's a whole other can of worms. I don't think anybody really intentionally wants to open, or if it opens, wants to have to deal with it. So yeah. I've been able to talk to some of your team, and they speak so highly of you, and they say that there's just a great culture at SAM. Is culture within your employees something that's like really important to you and that you're passionate about?
It's funny because I guess it is, but it's not like, for years people would talk about our culture, and I'm like, I don't even know what our culture is. We live here, right? This is just what we do, but as we've grown bigger, sure. I think it has gotten more important to me because it's easier to lose, right? So we have a lot more people, and if we bring someone on who really doesn't mesh well with the existing culture that's here, it stands out, and it shows. And so we try to, when we're adding people to our team, really explain to them, even though I don't even know how to put it into words, but kind of help them understand the atmosphere, the team, how we work together, what we do, to make sure that that's what they're looking for. And I would say our culture is really, really built around, you asked Jess about, the advice, and I said, get a great manager. And I would say our culture here is really built around our managers. So everyone in our home office, in like the field support team around the country, our job is to make sure they can do their job well. That's it. Like that. Yeah. Everything else goes from there. So it's open door, and any of us can help anybody, anytime. And so I think we've had people who are much more about kind of org structure, and you can't talk to this person unless you go to this person or that person first. And it doesn't work here.
You got an open door policy, it sounds like, over there, right? Come talk to me, like let's have a conversation. Now, I can't remember exactly, so you're going to have to refresh my memory, but you guys did something like the SAM Olympics. Talk to me about that.
We try to do contests and
sure,
and prizes, and other people on our team run it. So that was Gina on our team's idea. She started, we were getting excited for the Olympics internationally.
Yeah.
Well, can we do something? So our team put something together that they had different teams around the country, and they were competing in, like 1 week. It was one event, the next week another event, the next week another event, and then it ended up having, medal winners at the end. So just something fun, and something, we have teams of people all around the country doing the same thing, maybe in tiny, slightly different ways. But we're just always trying to put some fun in it and share some best practices between them.
And then you just received an award. SAM received an award from somewhere locally where you're headquartered, correct? About being like one of the best workplaces, right? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, it's Pennsylvania's best places to work.
Awesome.
So all employers in Pennsylvania, I think, are, eligible, and a bunch of them apply, and then they survey all the employees that you have in that state, and you have to get something like 80% of your employees have to fill out the survey, and then you just see where you rank. So last year was the first year that we were in the top, I don't even know how many it is, top 25 or something. They have different categories, like medium, small, large,
sure,
employers. So it's something we're actually really, really proud of.
And as you should be. Congratulations, by the way. We gave you some public congratulations, and I'm going to do it again here because I saw that and I was like, that's super cool. Like, I love that you guys had that accomplishment and you have that accolade that you can tell people now. So
thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. So talk to me. There's a lot of competition in this space, right? But it's friendly competition, as we were just talking about. People are so willing to knowledge share. If I'm a newer owner operator and I'm just trying to mark my footprint out there, what can I do to help differentiate myself and kind of like lay the land so people pay attention to who I even am?
I would say I would say be generous and kind. So the same thing I would tell my kids, like, how do you get people to notice you? You just be nice to people.
Yeah.
So, and, and it sounds really simple, but it spreads, right? So if you're kind and giving and your neighborhood community, you're going to maybe contribute to charities in your thing. Maybe you'll have some event at your property that you invite some local charities to come, and you help raise money for them and awareness for them, and then your tenants see that you're doing these nice things that help the community, and they talk about it, or they might share it on social media, and then the other businesses see that you're doing the same thing, and they want to do business with businesses like that.
Sure.
So I think caring about the place where you are really can go a long way. So it's caring about your property and how you look, having the best curb appeal, making sure it's clean. It's only space that we're selling, so it should be clean and secure, right? Let's make sure everything works.
Yeah.
And then I'd say those things to differentiate yourself from a standpoint. It's just the culture, that kindness and generousness, and providing a really quality service. I mean, you can certainly, there are products you can offer that others might and not that might be differentiators and help improve your close rates and get somebody to rent with you. But you need to get them to show up and just feel good there first.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree with that. And there's so much you can do within your local community. And I always tell owners and operators, like, get involved, go join the chamber, like, make your presence known that you're there, and you're there as a resource to help people, because people are coming for storage in a time of there's an obvious need, and that's why they're coming to you. So help them and service them through that need.
And I think the really large, national REITs, it's harder for them to do that, right? To really build an awareness and, trust their local managers to go out into their markets and build those relationships. That's tougher. I think that is one place where a smaller operator who has 1 or 2 or 3 stores can outperform the national companies.
For sure. Now, the footprint of SAM, you're not in every single state yet, are you? Or
no, I think we're in 31 or 32 states now. So we started in the Northeast and have worked our way. We've covered kind of the whole East Coast and worked our way west, but we're not anywhere along the West Coast. So we're as far west as Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Utah, but not California or Washington.
Okay. So for like a newer owner operator that's looking, to get into a market, from your point of view, what are some of those key attributes that kind of you look at when you're looking at the market analysis to make sure that you're making a smart decision and a smart move to enter into that market?
Probably really similar to what other people have said. I mean, I'd want to make sure that the properties in the area haven't already provided enough supply for the potential demand. And there are tools that you can, there are resources and tools you can do, or you can hire somebody to do a market study for your feasibility study. I'd want to understand what's in the pipeline. So I'd be calling the local municipalities, townships, boroughs, whatever they are, to find out if people are already planning on building here. And then I'd want to understand, if it's really easy for me to get permits and approvals and, to build storage by right, then it's probably easy for other people to do. So I just want to understand the barriers to entry other people have. If you're tenacious and persistent and patient and can build in a market that has a lot of barriers to entry, then it's probably safer, because other people might not be willing to put all that effort in.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So this asset class is having, huge performance right now. Do you give me your gut feeling? Do you think that like this is here to stay for a while? If so, how much longer? If you were to like have a crystal ball and you could kind of project the future, when do you think this is kind of gonna, come back to reality, right? Because we're really not living in real times, so to say, as far as the explosiveness that's going on right now.
Yeah, I mean, occupancy is higher than I've ever seen it across the board average, but it'll come down. We're not going to be average of 94, 95% occupied, every summer, But we're not so far from normal for self-storage. So if it comes down, it might come down to 92%, 91%, but that's still great. So it's still going to be a good industry. I think one of the really good indicators is that millennials per capita are using self-storage more than any other generation. And so as younger generations come up, they're more aware that self-storage is an option. They see it everywhere. They know someone who's used it. In this time, more people have used it in the last year and a half than ever before. And typically, once you use it, you'll probably use it again, and you'll talk to people about it. So I think the awareness is better than it's been. We've seen indicators that demand per person for self-storage is growing. So, even if some of the short-term people moving, people building home offices, things like that goes away soon, which it will, due to COVID, the overall demand and awareness of the industry is increasing. So I think we'll continue to see more and more people use self-storage as well. So I think, I don't have any long-term real fears. Now, are there going to be some small pockets that are oversaturated and too many people develop in? Yep. But eventually all those properties will fill. It just might take a long time.
Yeah. When the population grows, maybe a little bit more.
It might take a little while.
Yeah, it might take a little bit of time. So you're going to love this question. I think this one's funny when I talk to a third-party management team like yours. Tell me your viewpoint when you feel like, what are your thoughts on self-manage for an owner-operator versus moving to third-party manage? Is there like I know
it's not really a fair question for me, Jess.
I love that when I see that one. I'm going to ask it.
I think there are times and places for both.
There are.
I think, look, if I wanted to, like in my life, I think about it. If I wanted to, my husband and I wanted to retire. Sure. Sort of, but then I got bored or, something. I think it'd be really fun to have one or two properties and just run them myself and wear all the hats again and do that. Except there are things I'm bad at. So that piece is what scares me. Like I personally am not great at internet marketing. I don't know. I personally haven't kept up with it enough. I don't know when Google changes their algorithm and things like that. So I don't know. I am not great at construction myself either. Yeah. So there are things I'm good at and there are things I'm not. So I think if I was running it myself, I would just really need to make sure that the things I'm not good at, I still outsourced.
There's nothing wrong with outsourcing, right? Like, if you
exactly.
Be an expert in every single facet and category within the umbrella of running the full operation from full spectrum, right? You just can't, it'd be silly to say you can.
And then as a single, smaller operator that has fewer properties, joining a group like the SBOA is brilliant because now I have the economies of scale that I wouldn't get myself because I'm partnering with all these other owners, right, in this alliance. And sometimes I wouldn't even know where to look for who's the best company for internet marketing or for, if I can be part of the SBOA, I can help find those easier. So, but for somebody who has another career or has a big family and wants to spend time with family or likes to travel a lot and doesn't want to deal with the headache of a manager calling in sick or quitting or a customer upset about a rate increase, or just doesn't even, a lot of people, especially if the kindness that we talked about before, they have a really hard time if they live in the market where their storage property is and, not giving discounts to too many people or free units to people or pushing rates on people. And so in those cases, having a third party manager who can, I'm sorry, I don't make the rules. The management company does that, can really kind of be a way to avoid that. And certainly the management companies, and there are a lot of us out there, but are all full of pretty brilliant people, I think, that are really good at only self-storage, but that's the experience. They have the data. We can test things, understand it better, and then you get the benefit of all of that knowledge and data and all those people.
Yeah, and I love that point you brought up, because like I've never even really thought of it that way. But like, think of how many like friends and family discounts you don't have to give when you can push it off and just say, "Oh, well, my management company deals with that."
Sorry, it's out of my hands.
Yeah. I love that. That's actually brilliant. Honestly, that right there alone would be enough reason for me, if I had a facility to go, because I would be giving friends and family discounts out to every single person I knew, and I probably wouldn't make any money. So,
Yeah.
well, so you've been in the industry a long time, and I want to ask you this question for a couple of reasons, because you're involved heavily in the Women's Council. But back in the earlier days when you entered, I'm sure there were not as many women in the industry back then as there are now. So kind of tell me what you've seen historically, and then dive in a little bit for the ladies that tune into this and read this and watch this, about the Women's Council and how all of that kind of came into idea and creation.
Oh, sure. I think when I started in the industry 20 years ago, there were definitely women that I worked with, but there weren't as many women in high level roles in the company. But I was very, very lucky. So Storage USA, when I got there, had a male CEO, and then GE Capital bought us and owned it for a couple of years. And the CEO that they brought in was a woman. So I never felt, quite honestly, I never felt like I was stood out like a sore thumb because I was a woman. I always felt respected. And the men that I worked with were great. And I've been very, very, very fortunate in this industry. I really haven't had many tough people to work with.
Sure.
But I would love to see, and we're starting to see it, more women figure out how to handle the work-life balance so they can continue to grow in their career and continue to lead. And I think all leaders offer something different, have different expertise, different things they're good at, different personalities. And the more diversity we get in leadership, in any industry across the country, the better off we all are, I think. So yeah. The Women's Network, Women's Council started, women just naturally, there weren't as many, and naturally at trade shows started getting together, not formally, but started like forming let's go together for a happy hour. And it was other women who started doing this, not me. And so they started doing it. And I was on the board of the Self-Storage Association a few years ago. And they said, hey, we'd like to kind of make this a little bit more formal and get some support from the SSA and do it. Would you want to be part of it and help us? And I was thrilled that they asked. So it's been fun to be part of. And it's awesome to see more and more women getting involved in the mentorship program growing.
Yeah. I'm so excited to be involved in that. I can't wait to get like my first assignment. I'm like anxiously waiting for my first person. So.
I just got an email pairing mine yesterday, so you should get something.
I'm waiting. I can't wait. Like, I'm so excited for that. And it's just, the whole thought process there is just so great. And again, it's just another great resource that we have that we can tap into, that I think we're fortunate. You are seeing some women take, a little bit higher roles than maybe they did long ago. And
without a doubt. Yeah.
I'm a cheerleader for that for obvious reasons, but I just love what we're seeing. I've got two final questions for you before we wrap up today. And they're all around revenue. Well, one's around revenue management, and then one's around ancillary income, because it's so funny. I literally, because I'm here at Texas SSA, I was talking to a new owner operator. He's got one property, and he's not offering tenant insurance, and if you offer tenant insurance, that can be a great ancillary income line. So how much emphasis do you guys put on the ancillary?
The tenant insurance is big. So we definitely put a lot of emphasis on that. It does multiple things. That would be the ancillary item we put the most emphasis on, I would say. Number one, because it's a great, it is a good revenue source. It drives value of the property. But number two, and one isn't more important than two, is when something goes wrong, it is so much easier to deal with the situation for the tenant and help them by just saying, no problem, here's the phone number, or here's the website, just file the claim, and we'll follow up to make sure that they process it quickly. Right.
Yeah.
And because very honestly, if we didn't provide that, hardly any of our tenants would have any sort of coverage because they're moving. Homeowners doesn't always cover it. So it is really important, I think. And I think our managers appreciate that too, and have done a really good job explaining that to our tenants. So that one's really important. And then I think, there are a lot of things you can do. And I think some of them maybe you're always going to do. It's a great, selling a lock and boxes, and, it's just extra revenue, and it's a one-stop shop for our tenants. So it's making their lives easier, and they're happier, and that we were able to give those things. Truck rentals is another one, popular in our industry that I think I think there's a time and a place that is better.
I agree.
And it's not the best situation for every single property, but for maybe a property that doesn't have a ton of activity at the store, so the manager has downtime, then that can be a great ancillary source of revenue. Or a property in lease up where you're just trying to create, maybe it's a tougher location and you just need more awareness that you're there. That can drive people. We've tried lots of things. We've had UPS stores in our properties,
Nice.
Shipping, drop and ship FedEx places. We've had, we sell propane at some where we might have like car wash bays where we have a lot of RV parking available.
Sure.
So it's really about what works at each individual property. Is this going to add to it or be more of a headache? So I would say for new people getting in, I wouldn't jump into a million ancillary things immediately.
Yeah.
I would pick probably the biggest lever, which is protection or tenant insurance. And then the other ones, I would maybe add one at a time and see how it goes before I threw too much on my managers.
Yeah, I think that makes total sense. Again, like growing to scale, another thing that you can kind of go back to there, right?
Yeah.
How about, it was so funny when we were formulating this list of questions that we wanted to ask. Of course, my CFO comes in, because I was asking for everyone's internal opinion. He's like, I want to know how much focus they put against revenue management. I said, of course you do. So talk to newer.
Oh, the numbers guy, the money guy.
Yeah, right.
We put quite a bit of emphasis on revenue management. It's critical. We need to make sure we're priced right. And we have an obligation to the owners of the storage properties that we have to maximize the net operating income. And to do that, we have to maximize the revenue. But it's a balance, right? So you're maximizing revenue, but trying to keep, we want really good online reviews. So you don't want to go too far and start to, drop from a 5-star rating to a 4-star rating on Google, because that's a long-term impact. So what I would say is we're very focused on revenue management, but we are in this for the long term, not the short term. So you can use revenue management to make a very short impact. I can drop rates dramatically and fill my property fast, but that might hurt the market that I'm in for storage for many, many years to come. Or, I might lease up a little bit slower, but at a higher rate. And then I'm at that higher rate for the many years to come as well. So we really try to make sure that our revenue management strategies are strong, beneficial for the property long term. And we focus. The revenue management levers are easier to pull. You can have a team of people who do this, and then with feedback from the store teams. I'd say we spend much more of our time talking about customer service and sales, because it's just, we have way more of our employees are focused on every single day. What can we do to sell at the property and provide good service at the property? So they're both important.
Yeah, there's a lot of important stuff out there, right? Everybody's like, I'm getting to get into storage. It's a cash cow and it's so easy and pass it off. I hear so many different terms thrown around, and I'm like, you have to work this. It is not like a set it and forget it, and all of a sudden you're like flowing in a sea of money, right? You have to put the work in, the effort in here. So
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I always love doing these. It's always insightful because, I've only been in self-storage for 2 years. So I always love hearing everyone's thoughts and opinions, and everybody's, sometimes they're all like kind of right in line and have like a similar theme. And sometimes they are like polar opposite ends of the spectrum. It just really depends on who you're talking to.
I've been able to see, I saw one, I'll have to go back and look at the ones that I've missed that you guys have done in the past, but I learned from everybody I talk to in self-storage. That's, again, it's one of the best things about our industry.
It is. It is. I mean, I'm learning while I'm here right now at the show. So, I mean, I always
Sure.
learn something new. Then that's why I love attending these. So, again, thank you so much for your time today. I really
No, thanks for having me. Hopefully,
Yeah.
I'll see you at one soon.